Hey everybody, Captain Lou here with another edition of Tigers Daily, live here on the Fan Arts Network. Happy Tuesday, June the 30th, 2026. Hey, we invite you, by the way, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Tigers Daily. You get all of our great updates daily, hence the heading Tigers Daily. All the rumors, all the news, good and bad. Check us out here every day on Tigers Daily. Subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. As we mentioned, it's a happy Tuesday indeed for the Tigers. Big win yesterday, a much-needed win for the Tigers, 7-3 over the Bronx Bombers in New York. Game one of the road trip, a 6-game road trip coming up. And boy, the Tigers needed that. And they turned to Casey Mize, and Casey Mize had one heck of a matchup. He was filthy. It was such a joy to watch for a change. And the bullpen didn't blow it. They tried in the 8th inning, but they didn't blow it. Casey Mize, 7 innings, 10 strikeouts, no walks. Gave up a harmless double in the 3rd inning. That was it, really. As he was in command, his pitches were on spot. He had the Yankees so baffled, so mesmerized with his stuff tonight. Now you know, it just makes everybody, now you know why they picked him number 1 overall years ago in the draft. Let's see if he could keep that up. Let's see if he could stay healthy. But as we mentioned, this is a much needed win for the Tigers. If they have any shred of hope to get in the playoff race, they're not mathematically eliminated. If they have any shred of hope, they've got to count on guys like Casey Mize and Tariq Skubal and Jack Flaherty perhaps to get them down the stretch. The Tigers' bats are starting to warm up. They had 11 hits against Yankee pitching. Ryan Weathers got knocked around in the 2nd inning. Most of it wasn't his fault, though. I think of the 7 runs, if I'm not mistaken, only 2 of them, maybe 3 were earned. New York with a couple of errors again, but nonetheless, the Tiger bats showed up again, and they got strong pitching and good enough relief to get the job done. We mentioned Casey Mize, 10 strikeouts in this. He had a 7-0 lead after 7 innings, 7 strong innings. That's what we're going to need out of the Tigers right now. The bullpen, their confidence a little shaken after that series against Houston. And when you look at it, the lineup that A.J. Hinch had in, we'll talk about it momentarily. And I know the Yankees are depleted. No Aaron Judge, no Giancarlo Stanton. This is the time to get the Yankees if you're the Tigers. They went out and just got swept this past weekend by the Boston Red Sox after they took 2 out of 3 from Detroit at Comerica. So this is the time to get the Yankees. They're a little shaken right now. And then I don't know if you saw what happened to Jazz Chisholm Jr. last night. First, he took one right to the knee, a helmet off of Kevin McConaughey as he was sliding into second after an error and a throw. He stretched it into they called it an error. It was 2 bases anyways. McConaughey slid into second, caught Jazz Chisholm in the knee with his helmet. McConaughey was all right. Chisholm was down for a moment, then got up, and then on the very next play, a fly ball to right field. He was going after it with his back turned, and he got clotheslined WWE style. They ended up taking him out of the game. You didn't know whether he was in the Bronx or in Manhattan after that play. And we hope that he's all right. You know, he's a character, that's for sure. You don't want to see anybody get injured. But nonetheless, Detroit was able to take advantage of that. Now they've got the Yankees with a depleted lineup. Let's see if they can maybe take advantage of that either tonight or tomorrow in the afternoon in the series finale. But nonetheless, the Tigers come out with a 7-3 win, as we mentioned. In the 8th, Drew Summers gave up 3 runs in relief. He looked nervous out there for some reason. Maybe it was just me, but he just looked tentative. But then in the 9th, Drew Anderson came in, made up for it as he pitched, a very, very solid 9th inning, 8 pitches to get the Yankees out in order. And that gave the Tigers the 7-3 win. With that win for the Tigers, that gives A.J. Hinch his 1,000th career victory as a manager. It hasn't been pretty as of late for the Tigers skipper. Last weekend against Houston, I questioned his motives. I've been questioning it really all year. The way he handles the pitching staff has been marginal in my opinion, but he's got his 1,000th win. Now again, he's led the Tigers to a couple of playoffs, I get it, and he led the Astros to a couple of World Series championships, so he's got pedigree. But boy, when you talk about a stubborn manager, I think he would have more wins. You can question his methods. I get, and I'm the first one to do it. Why he keeps Jahmai Jones in the lineup when he's got a power bat in Kerry Carpenter. I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. He starts Jahmai Jones last night. He starts an outfield of Matt Vierling, James Outman, and Ben Malgeri. No Riley Green, no Kerry Carpenter. And you know what? These guys are young. I know he wants to give them rest throughout the year. This is where you need to start piling up victories if you're the Tigers. They were 35 and 49 coming into the game yesterday. They won, like I said, so now they're 36 and 49. But you can't make it a habit of starting or resting these guys. They're going to have an all-star break coming up in 2.5 weeks. They've got an off day on Friday. They've got an off day again next week. I just don't understand that. And the way he handles his, what he did this past weekend was putting Will Vest in there in the 8th inning with a 15 ERA in the 8th inning. And when he put Jensen in again in the 10th inning Sunday, and he got lit up, those are the things that I question with AJ Hinch. But nonetheless, he got his 1,000th win. Congratulations to AJ. We'll see if he can keep it up tonight. A dynamite pitching matchup tonight. Cam Schittler is he leads the American League in WAR, going up against Tariq Skubal, the two-time defending Cy Young Award winner. That's going to be a marquee matchup. It's on national TV tonight, TBS and Prime Video. So everybody's going to get to see Tariq Skubal in the limelight. I don't know if it's an audition or what. We've talked about it already. Some of these games now are the audition games for these starting pitchers. Jack Flaherty, Tariq Skubal, maybe some of the hitters that, is it going to be a fire sale in 3 to 4 weeks? Who knows? The Tigers are still in kind of a unique position with that because they are playing in such a horrible American League. This is historically bad, this American League, with coming into yesterday's games, 4 teams. That's it, 4 above 500. I can't remember the last time we've been able to say that. So congratulations to AJ Hinch. He gets his 1,000th win as a manager. Let's see if he can keep it going starting tonight, Game 2 in the Bronx against the Yankees. As we mentioned, Tariq Skubal will take the bump for the Tigers. Now, we thought, we were talking about what would happen if Detroit does decide to become sellers. Now, here's one to keep an eye on, a very interesting candidate for the Tigers. And I bring this up. How about, we talk about Drew Anderson. He pitched a very, very effective inning last night, 9th inning. And he's done fairly well for Detroit. So I look around the league and I think, who can they potentially maybe get for him? As I'm on the lookout, since for some reason Detroit is not willing to go to the minors to pull up some of their guys that are hitting 300 at Toledo, i.e. Corey Julks or Matt Anderson, or Max Anderson rather, or Max Clark or whatever. They're not willing to do it. So does that mean, I don't know why that is. We'll question Scott Harris about that in a moment. But one guy that I had my eye on for the Washington Nationals, Andrew Pinckney. He's at AAA Rochester right now. He's got some pop and he's got some wheels in the outfield. He's a carefree swinger, but he can hit the long ball and he's a decent fielder. And that's what Detroit really needs. They need someone, a little bit of pop in their bat. Now, he can hit for average pretty good too. He's really, really been on, he's been on the up lately. And I know his target date really is potentially to come up in 2027. But this would be one interesting player from Washington to get. Keep an eye on him. Andrew Pinckney. I think he's rated number 20 in the organization for the Washington Nationals. He's targeted to potentially be a September call-up. But I know Washington right now, they need some bullpen help. It's funny because they could be buyers for the first time in a while. They're in the wild card hunt in the National League. They're right there. And so if they're looking to be buyers, Nothing crazy, but buyers. This would be a good candidate for them, and that being Drew Anderson of the Tigers. Now, Drew Anderson's another interesting story for the Tigers. You realize that he played the last 4 years overseas, played in Japan in 22 and 23, and then the last couple of years played in Korea. And then Detroit signed him in the offseason for a $7 million 1-year deal. $7 million. That's how much they thought of him. So it's kind of a crazy signature. Just a very interesting signing for the Tigers. So I think that would be something to keep an eye on if you're looking down the road for Detroit, maybe to look for some help, or potentially, if they start becoming sellers like around July 20th or July 25th. Check that out. I think that would be a very interesting, maybe an interesting signing for the Tigers. So, but then let's say Detroit becomes sellers. Do you trust Scott Harris as a GM right now, the Tigers? I mean, some of these decisions that they're making with the lineup kind of scares me a little bit. I mean, they haven't made a lot of splash signings, and the decisions that they make to call people up, to send them down, I just don't understand it. Ben Malgeri was a good call up. We'll see how long he lasts. But again, as we mentioned, why hasn't Jenks been called up? Why hasn't Anderson been called up? Or even Clark? Those are three names that stick out. They're having very good years with Toledo. So then it comes to the trade deadline. Do you trust Scott Harris to make the right deal? I mean, we talked about it. I think a good one to keep an eye on would be Jack Flaherty. The Tigers are going to ask for a king's ransom for Skubal, and I don't blame them, as they should. That's the key word right there, should. Will Scott Harris be able to get enough? This is a very, very important time of the year for him, for a turning point, really, for the Tigers' fortunes. If the Tigers get hot before the All-Star break, they play their way in it, some of these potential trades or whatever may be a moot point. I still think if you're looking at the long-term future of the Tigers, trading Skubal is probably it. But the question everybody asks, is Scott Harris the capable GM to be able to get it done for what you need in return? I mean, he's had a fascination with Flaherty. Flaherty started out really bad, now he's pitching well. This could be a good opportunity for him, maybe to trade him somewhere on. He's on an expiring contract. Do they keep Spencer Torkelson? He didn't draft Torkelson. Will he trade him? And again, the question is, will he get anybody worthy in return? I mean, that's the million-dollar question. We've given our theories, our predictions, our options maybe for some of the players to keep an eye on. And in the coming days, I've got some very interesting ones too that you'll have to keep an eye on to see what you think might happen in Detroit. But this is the million-dollar question right now in Detroit. And I know I think they're the beneficiary of what's going on with the Red Wings, where, that's taken some of the heat off of the Tigers. But this is the Tigers' time to shine. The reason I say that is because this is baseball's moment right now. The month of July and the first couple of weeks of August before spring training hits preseason camp, training camp hits in football. Baseball has July. They're front and center. There's no other major sports. Yeah, I know the World Cup is there, but this is where the spotlight really shines on a guy like Scott Harris. Some very important decisions are going to be made here. Does he trade the core? Can he get who we all think he should get? Will it be worth trading Skubal for the return he could get? I know there's a lot of teams banging on the door for him. Spencer Torkelson, Jack Flaherty, Kenley Jansen, although Kenley Jansen's stock may have took a tumble Sunday with that blown opportunity in the 10th inning. Who knows? And now again, another question that we have with Scott Harris and AJ Hinch for that matter, what are they going to do with the likes of Kiter Montero? It looks like for now it's going to be a 5-man rotation. Montero's going to be in the bullpen. I think Montero is someone Detroit has to build around in the future along with Troy Melton. So then you ask, what about guys like Casey Mize or whatever? So do you trust Scott Harris to be that guy to get Detroit back to where they belong? I mean, what are you going to do with AJ Hinch? Is he going to keep him around? Detroit franchises are a lot of times loyal to a fault unless it's really, really bad. The clock is ticking for Scott Harris and AJ Hinch. And again, I think they're fortunate that they've got an owner like Chris Ilitch who seems very apathetic at the moment as well. So, all things to keep an eye on as we go into July, which starts tomorrow in the midway point of the season. And finally, tonight, let's take a look back at Tiger history. 1968, as they got Jim Northrup had a one banner week. Started and it ended with a grand slam against the Chicago White Sox. What's so important about that? 3 grand slams in 1 week. It culminated quite a week for the Tigers team that ended up going to the World Series and beating the St. Louis Cardinals. He had 2 grand slams in 1 game 6 days before that in a win over the Cleveland Indians. So that's just a look back at history on June 30th. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Tigers Daily. Again, I want to remind everybody, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll get all of our great stuff. News, rumors, good stuff, bad stuff, you name it. We go over all the games, that and a whole lot more. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Tigers Daily. We invite you to do that. I think you'll really like it as we partner up with Fan Arch Network. Until tomorrow, Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. So long.